The life of this GQ interview with Scottie Pippen that has now spilled into day number 2 between Scottie, who I don't think it was his intention to diss Kevin Durant.
No,
I thought he gave a very cerebral sense, a very cerebral interpretation of the game. How one of the great players of all time, Scottie Pippen, how he views Kevin Durant and his game compared to that of LeBron James. Other things were said as well, but when KD starts firing back, KD usually hits the mark. Like, that's not a guy you want to get into a Twitter war with because KD usually zaps you.
Yeah, he's not one to just sit back and say, oh, yeah, okay, it's just nothing. It's just social media fodder. Because it wasn't even Scottie that he responded to. It was some other guy interpreting what Scottie said, and then Kevin Durant decided to go in on Scottie Pippen. And, you know, the things that he says are just dead. They're right on. Like, you can't even argue them. And I think that's how you win arguments. You state the obvious. Instead of creating a new opinion about Scottie, you just state the obvious and let whoever is absorbing or reading that just draw their own conclusion, which kind of is obvious as well. I mean, this is KD at his finest. I mean, when he gets his off season, he really not even. He does this in regulars in the season too.
Yeah.
When he feels moved by something, he is not going to stay silent about it.
No,
which is rare because a lot of athletes, they just kind of ignore.
Yeah,
he does not ignore.
And he's not passive aggressive. Like, you know, LeBron, you never really truly know what LeBron's thinking. Not that LeBron's passive aggressive, but
yeah.
I appreciate Kevin Durant putting his feelings out there. And I appreciate even more that Kevin Durant's finally attaching his name to those feelings rather than the burner account, which I think he has moved on from. Let me read you a couple things, all right? So one of which I read yesterday, but I just want to reset. I want everybody to be on the same page. This is from the interview, the article in Esquire, was it GQ, with Scottie Pippen. And he wrote, or he said, as I read, KD can score better than LeBron, probably always have been able to. But has he surpassed LeBron? Nah, Pippen said. He tried to beat the Bucks instead of utilizing his team. You see what I'm saying? LeBron would have figured out how to beat them, and he would have been exhausted, and he may not have taken the last shot, but LeBron ain't KD, and KD ain't LeBron. KD is a shooter, a scorer, but he doesn't have what LeBron has. Okay. Then he went on. He said he needs to learn how to utilize his teams. He's got to learn how to set up his teammates better. That's it. As great as he is, so he's acknowledging the greatness, there's a cap to his talent. He could have easily made that 3, killed them in regulation, and we wouldn't have been talking about this. But I knew going into overtime he wasn't going to make it. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
Guys, I inject that. As I continue to read now. He was taking all the shots. You done played the whole game, bro. And they've got guys physically wearing you down. You're going to lose. But have you ever seen LeBron take a shot like that? Yes, we have. He ain't gonna take that shot. He's going to be smarter. He's going to force a double. That's what KD wasn't able to do. He was so exhausted he couldn't even get to the bucket. Then there's a little more, but now you know we can get into that. I mean, he's not fully wrong.
No,
that Durant was exhausted.
He's nitpicking.
Go ahead.
He's nitpicking.
Go ahead.
Because, I mean, of course Kevin Durant was exhausted. He played 48 minutes the game before. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know what he played in Game 7, but it was
53 minutes.
It was over, yeah, because they went into overtime. So, I mean, of course he's exhausted. That goes without saying that he's worn out. And I do think that he created for his teammates. I mean, Jeff Green was wide open for 7 of those 8 3-pointers, really 8. He was open for all 8 of them. He missed one of them, but part of that was because Kevin Durant was driving in the lane and kicking out. Did he miss the third quarter of Game 6? That's all Kevin Durant did. I mean, he had a triple-double. It was one of the greatest triple-doubles in the history of the postseason.
Played every minute, too.
And played every minute. So, yeah, Scottie's making a point, but he's missing the mark a little bit. And I did this camp the other day for Jason Garrett. I told you about this.
I don't think you told me about this.
So Jason Garrett had a camp at Princeton last weekend, and AJ was supposed to come with me, but they had graduation parties, and so he decided to stay. He didn't want to drive down from Connecticut to go to Princeton. But so my job was to coach these kids. Right.
Okay.
And so it's high school kids, or mostly sophomores, some juniors are there. They have a team of about 13 to 15 kids, and you play other teams. So it was actually a really fun like 7-on-7 type environment, and Coach Tiki was the coach.
I love it. That's awesome.
We ended up finishing we played 5 games. We were 2-3.
Tiki, you might have to might get fired, dude. 2-3.
I wasn't in charge of the defense. I'm not making excuses. I'm in charge of the
Did you guys score
team.
points?
Yeah, we did.
Nice.
We did. But so midway through the 3rd game, like I see fatigue starting to like happen. Like you can see it. And so I'm telling the kids in one of the breaks, I'm like, fatigue makes a coward out of everybody. Like, you might think you're putting it all in there, but fatigue wears you out, and it makes your mind get lazy, right? Same thing with parents. Parents get fatigued for their kids. All of a sudden, they're like, go sit on the iPad, go stay over there. Say you're tired at work. You're just all of a sudden, I'm going to take a 2-hour lunch today. I actually want to take that 2.5-hour lunch today. Like fatigue will ruin us all. And you can't help it sometimes. And only like the really elite can fight through it. KD tried his damnedest to fight through it, but it caught up with him. And he's right about that. But it's not KD's fault.
It's not his fault.
That's the problem I have with what Scottie's saying.
Is it Steve Nash's fault? Because that's something else Scottie Pippen brought up in the article that he basically said, how the bleep are you going to play him every minute? And he threw a little bit on Steve Nash's doorstep.
Maybe. Because remember what we heard from Giannis the other day when Giannis was talking about playing as heavy minutes as he did in game. I think it was actually Game 7. He was talking about Game 7, how many minutes he played. He's like, Bud gets me a break. Maybe it's only 30 seconds, or maybe it's like 2 minutes. But I get the break when I need it, and then as soon as we get another timeout, I get right back in there. Steve Nash didn't let him leave the court, or didn't ask him to leave the court. Now, KD probably said, keep me out there, but sometimes you got to protect your guy from himself, right?
Yeah, sometimes you do. I've got an interesting theory on this whole thing. I want to give you some of the retorts from Durant. One we heard yesterday, one is new, which is that's the mic drop. Conversation over. Scottie does not need to weigh in anymore because no matter what he says, he's not gonna trump what Kevin Durant said. But my theory is this: like, to me, not that he's doing this with malice or a hatchet job, but I do believe on some level that Scottie Pippen, in illuminating the differences, which in essence creates a gap between LeBron and Kevin Durant, obviously, takes down Durant a little bit, but continues to prop up LeBron James, which I think is motivation for Scottie to passively take a little dig at Michael Jordan. Think about the way The Last Dance went.
Okay.
We had Scottie on the show.
Yep.
We asked him about this. It's not like he said they're best buddies. I mean, I'm sure he's got love for Jordan, the accomplishments, but Scottie was not happy the way that came out, the way he was positioned in the documentary. And by, continuing to espouse and anoint LeBron as this, superhero who's just better than Durant, and Durant's already one of the 10, 12, 15 greatest players of all time, I think in a roundabout way, there's a little fuel there to chip away a little bit at the
deep,
myth.
Man.
What's it?
You're getting deep.
Well, listen, I got a deep brain. I mean, I can't fault the guy. It's the way my brain works. I really
you at all.
Nobody
I didn't even cross my mind.
Well,
I didn't even think about that.
Nobody can tell me that Scottie Pippen wouldn't take a little joy in seeing a narrative come out now that, and a little more fuel on the fire of LeBron being the GOAT, which neither you nor I subscribe to.
No.
It's Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But Scottie Pippen, maybe a different angle, maybe a different motivation.
Maybe. Because, look, at the end of the day, why is he taking shots at KD? He doesn't need to. KD was, I think, heroic, and I don't think anybody sees it any other way. I mean, heroic relative to sports, obviously, you know what I mean? For
sure.
But, I think he did everything that he possibly could. And, Kevin Durant, we should read his second mic drop because that was the one that was most interesting. But at the end of the day, Kevin Durant, I mean, he doesn't need to prove this to Scottie Pippen, right? And so I don't think LeBron James would even agree with what Scottie Pippen was saying. You know what I mean?
I don't know. LeBron hasn't said anything.
I'm surprised LeBron didn't weigh in on this.
Well, why would he? Because what Pippen said makes LeBron look good. What is he going to correct Scottie? No, Scottie, I think you're selling Kevin Durant a little short. No, you just lay back and you say, that's right. An all-time great is saying I'm a lot better than Kevin Durant. I'll take that. I'll keep my mouth shut too. Why would he say anything, LeBron?
I don't know, because he
would be counterproductive to his legacy.
Yeah, but is he really? I mean, his legacy's pretty set, right?
I know, but he is married to, he is driven to, rightly or wrongly, whether he gets there or not. I mean, for us, he's never getting there.
No.
To jump in front of LeBron. I mean, the damn promos for the movie, The Bunny versus the Goat.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I
Which
know.
that drives me crazy, by the way. Here's the other thing, though. Like, I look at what Scottie said about not passing, and I'd really like to know, like, did Scottie Pippen watch the entire series? Because every time Kevin Durant passed to Joe Harris missed.
That's right.
I mean, he tried.
His assists were down. I mean, he should have had 20 assists a game. But you're right. There was a lot of missing going on. Joe Harris was the biggest culprit. Played probably the worst series I've seen him play ever.
Yes.
The worst stretch that I've seen him play since, probably before I was watching him.
Maybe with the Cavaliers before he really established himself.
Yeah, maybe. But he was a bit player at the Cavaliers.
Yeah, for sure.
He wasn't in a starting role, kind of off the bench and not really doing much. But yeah, you're right, BT. I mean, he could have had 18 assists in one of those games, right? But a lot of those guys, not just Joe Harris, the role players weren't knocking down shots. And so you can put it on KD, but the reason the Nets lost is not on KD, period.
No. And the fact that Scottie would, I don't know if that was his motivation. I do think there's a little something to the Jordan theory that I threw out there.
Yeah.
But
here's what Kevin Durant said. The mic drop.
Go ahead.
To all these guys he's writing to. This guy, Scott, also wanted to enjoy his summer, so he chose to rehab during the season. LOL. Yeah. Yo, Scottie Pippen, they followed Phil, not you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And he also said, and I paraphrase, maybe you have it. I don't see it on our Slack chain, but he said this is the same guy who elected not to go into the game.
Yeah, for the last shot.
For the last shot against the Knicks in the playoffs back in 94, when the Knicks wound up winning without Jordan and got to the finals and lost to the Rockets. But that is a stain on Scottie Pippen's career. I know he recovered from it, but if you're old enough to have watched that in real time, can you imagine, like, if there was... I mean, I know that there was sports radio back then. I didn't listen to a ton of national sports radio back then, but could you imagine if there were if there was First Take back then? He would be eviscerated.
He would have.
Eviscerated.
You think it would have changed his perception?
I think it would have to change. Yeah. And I think now it's too often forgotten now, but I like Scottie Pippen. But come on. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.